This is the Football Roundtable. We're live at Xfinity Live. Sal Pal, Jeremiah Trotter, Tim McManus, and Mike Missanelli. And I know it's a consideration to you that Philadelphia, because you talk about Chip Kelly, who wouldn't play here. Who plays here?
Yeah, of all the candidates that are out there that we talked about and that are on the list that are realistic, that they're actually going after, I actually think Bill O'Brien is the best one of the group. Because I know him a little bit, you know him a little bit. I think he could handle this media market. I think he comes in. The problem is two things with Bill O'Brien. If he's running from Happy Valley, there's going to be a hangover effect. There's going to be a lot of Nittany Lion fans who are not going to be happy about that he split after 1 year. He's going to have to deal with that. There's going to be blowback. No? Yes.
Well,
I mean, come on. We're talking about Mr. Happy Valley.
I'm not agreeing with that. You know, the Nittany Lion fans are subordinated in the minority to Eagle fans. So the first priority is he has to be accepted by Eagle fans. He's going to have to accept any kind of a backlash.
Okay.
But that's
there'll be blowback. There'll be blowback.
It's a minority.
And then they got to buy him out of the contract.
Well, and that's the thing that I need to talk about here.
Yeah.
But I think, depending on what the buyout,
I think O'Brien handles it the best.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
And he's a tough guy. He's got a personality.
Been in the NFL, can handle NFL media. I think he's gone through the baptism of fire more than any other college coach you could say in the last 12 months.
Is Bill O'Brien special enough that this organization, this owner, would pay $9 to $18 million to break him loose from a contract?
I don't see
this guy got nickel dime right here. He got nickel dime. Bill linebacker. Okay, nickel dime. Pay Bill O'Brien $18 million?
All right, let's
you want to these pennies for you.
Okay. I mean, before just a couple years ago, did people really were they sweating over this guy like they are right now, or was he the guy that replaced Josh McDaniels? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't. I don't know if he is as much as he's starting to be made out to be. Maybe he is, but I don't know. In terms of the guy that's going to play, the best here I think would be John Gruden. I mean, if you had your wish list in terms of a guy that handles the Philadelphia media, that has that kind of star power.
He's not happy.
Right. He's not great. John Gruden, you're crossing John Gruden right at it.
I got crossed off over the weekend. I spoke to a very, very knowledgeable source about it. John Gruden is not coming.
He doesn't want any part of this, or does he want any part of the NFL?
No, I know he's not coming to Philadelphia. That's all I can tell you. Not coming to that.
That's going to disappoint a lot of people out there. What did you see in Nambi this year that you think he's done? What did he lose his heart? Did he lose his ability, his affection to play football?
I think losing his confidence came late, but he can't run. Every time I see him chasing someone down, he looks like he's hurt, and he's known for pressing. And you'll see him in press technique. As soon as the ball is snapped, he goes into a bailout. So if you're going to bail out, you might as well go stand back 7 yards and play the guy from there. I think he lost his confidence. He can't run. He looks like he's hurt. And I don't know how you lose it that fast in 2 years, but somehow he did it.
But quarterback is what I'm saying.
Quarterback. You would take the quarterback.
At four, if they.
Oh, this is very interesting here. This year's draft quarterback.
If they feel like one of those guys is a franchise quarterback, and you have a big question mark over the head of Nick Foles, what's more important, Trot, than getting a star quarterback?
To be honest with you, I haven't seen a quarterback that's better than Nick Foles in this draft, to be honest with you.
Well, I agree with him. Now, who do you think, Tim, is better than Nick Foles in this draft? What quarterback would you?
I'm not sitting here saying that I'm evaluating Geno Smith, and I know that him and Barkley are going to be. But the point is that that's what some of the people in this organization's job is to figure out. I mean, that's why they have all these scouts that go out there and watch all this game film, and they sit in that dark room for hours and hours and hours and don't go home and see their wives because they're looking at this kind of stuff. And if they want to make the determination, if they come to the conclusion that Geno Smith and Matt Barkley, one of those two, is an upgrade over Nick Foles, and you think he could be a franchise quarterback, I'm not going to rule that possibility out. I mean, there's only so many times that you get in a top 5 pick, and if you think that one of these quarterbacks is worthy of a top 5 grade, then you slice them.
If they do, I'm not hiring. I don't think either one of those guys is a top 5 pick. They're not in my building. If they come in and say these guys are a top 5 pick, they're working someplace else. That's not happening.
I don't think there's any team out there saying there's a top 10 quarterback in this draft.
No. So it's not, to me, I think Trot said it was right. I think they got to take that number 4 pick and they got to translate it into 2 first-round picks.
How could you learn to be a good football genius? How's that happen?
I mean, you got to
have a feel.
You got eyes, you got common sense. There's a lot of people that haven't played the game. You know when the guy's out there making plays. You may not know about cover 2 or 3D or
But
2
don't
deep
you
and
have
5 under.
Don't you have to know that stuff?
No, he doesn't get paid to know the X and O. His job is to go out, watch tape, evaluate the players. Now, he's not doing everything. He has a whole scouting department that does that. And obviously, he's not sitting in the film room watching film all day for these guys. He has a scouting department that does that. And, you know, ultimately they answer to him, and then he answers to Jeffrey. But, you know, it remains to be seen. The jury's still out on this guy. And I don't want to bash him just yet. You know, I'll get to that later. But for right now, I want to give him a chance.
All right. Andy Reid. Now, we know that he's probably going to go to Kansas City, and word is Vic Teron's going to go there with him, and maybe Donovan McNabb out of retirement as a backup quarterback in Kansas City. Why would he take the job in Kansas City as opposed to interviewing in Arizona or San Diego?
That's a good one. That's a tough one. I would prefer going to Arizona just because I think in Arizona, you know, you've got a chance to really, I think, do some things in Arizona in that division fairly quickly. I think in Kansas City, you got to face Phillip Rivers and Peyton Manning twice a year. That's a really tall task. That's not easy to do. And you know, based on what you see from Peyton Manning, he's not going away for the next 2, 3, 4 years. And Phillip Rivers is, you know, still a pretty young quarterback. So I think that's a tough call for him to go to Kansas City. But, you know, Mark Donovan used to be in the front office here in Philadelphia. He's now president of Kansas City Chiefs. Scott Pioli's there, you know, notwithstanding the recent problems he's had, he's a pretty good judge of NFL talent. Proved that in New England over and over again. So maybe, you know, you just say, hey, bird in the hand, I got the job, I got the opportunity, and you know how it is sometimes you get into a room and you start talking to people, you like the way it feels, you like the way it sounds, and you don't want to turn down a job where, you know, the grass may be greener somewhere else, so you just say, hey, you know what, I'm going to take it.
And of course, there's nowhere to go but up.
2-14.
Right? He might get 7 5-year plans in Kansas City. He only got 3 here in Philadelphia.
And they got a nice barbecue there.
Andy Reid, the likes of Andy Reid, 3 good things in your mind that Andy Reid was worth it to this organization, and the 3 biggest mistakes of Andy Reid.
I think the number one thing would have to be loyalty to most of his players. I think he was loyal to his players and had their back in most situations. And I think the players understood that. I think 2, he worked well within the system of the Philadelphia Eagles. Like they had a good team concept within their front office. You didn't hear about a lot of antagonism between everybody until the very end. I think for the most part, there was shalom in the home there in Philadelphia, in North Campus City. They got along with one another, and that was a key part of their success. You know, they talked to one another, dealt with one another on a truthful basis, and for the most part, you know, they moved the chains down the field, and for the most part had success as a group together. And the third thing is, I think that he's a pretty good play designer. You know, he's a pretty good offensive play designer. And I think the flip side of that, the 3 negative things that I would talk about is what Trot talked about. I think bad game day management over and over and over again. I think bad management of his media image to the point where he became almost persona non grata in town. You know, people just sort of gave up on that fatigue. I think that was the second thing. And I think the third thing was he just made some poor decisions down the end about the defense that really good. Really good. Defensive coordinator, defensive personnel. Those are the 3 things.
Tim?
I would say, I'm going to echo a lot of what Sal said. I mean, in terms of bringing stability to the organization, about having a culture. Talking to one of the former players that was here with Rhodes and then into Andy, he brought up the notion that we would be in the locker room and we'd have maybe some beers and we'd be going out. But he just came and we kind of both cleaned that up and he said, this is the way that you're going to work and you're going to do it this way. So he was able to kind of put in a certain culture, and also he always had his teams prepared. And so they went in about as well prepared as anybody. However, getting to the bad 3, game management was where he did not thrive, and that's why. So he'd be well prepared, but oftentimes wouldn't be able to think on his feet as well as the opponent, the opposite coach, and they fell as a result. Mismanagement of the PR. I think it was a major thing that this organization now is going to have to rebuild. It's one of their primary concerns. Is they recognize that a disconnect has grown, and the major reason it has grown is because of Andy Reid. So that was one of them. And then big game letdowns. I mean, getting you right to the doorstep and then having your team fold in the biggest moment has to be part of his legacy.
You already talked about the good things of Andy Reid. What stands out for you as things that you wish wouldn't have happened?
The number one thing for me, early on, I think he learned later on in his career, but it was too late at that point. Value leadership. He came on early on. I don't think Andy really understood how much leadership means to a head coach. Having that guy in the locker room that's constantly talking to the players, getting the players on the same mindset as the head coach, buying into the system. I don't think he really valued that. I think later on in his career, he learned, but at that point it was too late. Most of the great leaders he had were already gone.
All right, here's the one thing I can't get past. I can't get past the fact that a guy who would constantly tell you that things weren't important when they really were, because he knew better. To me, that's the whole thing that defined Andy Reid. He made it seem like he knew better than everybody else, and I think it set the franchise back a couple years. In other words, we didn't need a wide receiver. It took a couple of years to catch up to that. We didn't need linebackers. It took a couple of years to catch up to that. And that's why the Eagles never really made it to the next butt up, because they were just missing that much. All right, final question for you guys. Give me a guess on who the coach is next year and what the Eagles' record is. Sal Pal.
I go first. I think they're hard after Chip Kelly. If they don't get him, they're going to be very disappointed. And after that, they're going to look at offensive coordinators in the league. If they can't convince Bill O'Brien to stay out of Penn State, they're obviously interested and will interview Mike McCoy. Like I said, Jay Gruden, not John Gruden. I think they're very interested in Jay Gruden, who's also represented by Bob Lamont. So I would say those are the top four. But if they don't come out of if we don't have a press conference for Chip Kelly next week, I'll be shocked.
All right, record. Playoff bound next year?
No. Last in the division again.
Last in the division. Six and 10?
Last in the division.
4 and 12, 5 and 11, what are
They have
they?
a quarterback situation.
How many wins?
4 to 5.
Oh, good Lord. Trot!
You know what? I'm going to have to agree with Sal, just for the simple fact, Lurie kept talking about, he wants somebody that's innovative, and out of this whole group we've been talking about, Chip Kelly is that guy. They have a chance. They can come in and get a coach, get a defense a good defense coordinator. I think they'll win 8 or 9 games.
All right. I think that Chip Kelly is the guy that they're targeting, and it's going to come down to Joe Banner and the Browns versus Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie and the Eagles. 7 or 8 win team.
Wow. All right, I don't care who it is. I'll tell you what.
After 2 hours,
I've been saying
you got to make it. Give me a name.
If it's Chip Kelly, God bless him. I have no idea who it's going to be, nor do I care. All I know is that I'm a happy man, because the winds of change can come in, and whoever comes in, whether it's Chip Kelly, whether it's Brian Kelly, I don't care who it is, whether it's an NFL assistant, I expect in this league, with this division, for the Eagles to be a playoff contender. And I will hold their feet to the fire, and I will rip them if they don't contend for the playoffs next year, because this league, you can go from one bad year to a good year like that.